Driver's license?
If everyone's ready, let's.
Did you get a hold of Kath?
Nope.
You texted her, right?
I texted her. We left her voicemail, so we'll see how that goes. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the July 17th, 2014 meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board. Let's call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Wilson?
Here.
Director Huber?
Here.
And we expect to have Director Slater Carter in by conference on the telephone from the location in Crystal, Michigan that is on the agenda. Let's start with, for a president's statement, let me mention that some of you may have heard in the news this week that the state legislature has enacted some legislation enabling water districts, special districts to impose fines and all sorts of things to try to deal with the drought this year. We are just now getting information from the State Water Board about what that actually means in terms of regulations. Let me tell you about Montara Water. We are in a very different condition than most of the rest of the state. And our community is remarkable for how well the people of this community conserve water. Our sources are all local, so we're not dependent upon the snowpack or the other things that the rest of the state is so dependent on. Combined with our populace that takes such good care of how we use water and the state of our resources, we're actually in pretty decent shape. It's not a free-for-all. We still need to be conserving, because the water that we save this year we may need next year. But when it comes to any of the kinds of drastic measures that may be put into place in other parts of the state, we currently have no plans along those lines. Should anything change here at this board meeting, in subsequent board meetings, that would be where the public would have an opportunity to hear about what the board might be considering. We're in better shape than a lot of our neighbors, but continue to be the conscious water considering community that we are, and take heart that the situation here is just not quite as dire. And so we don't expect to have any of those kind of draconian measures here. Do we have any oral comments for items other than those on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move to the consent agenda. Anyone like to pull items from the consent agenda for discussion? Okay, could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Old business item 1, review and possible action concerning completion of Pillar Ridge water system acquisition.
So I'm very pleased to report about the status of the water system, Pillar Ridge water system acquisition. This has been, I think, about 2 years that we've negotiated with Pillar Ridge, and I think this is actually the second round of negotiations. There was negotiations that immediately started in 2003 with Pillar Ridge that weren't successful. And on April 10 this year, this board authorized and directed the execution of the Pillar Ridge water system agreement. And we now have signed copies of the document in front of us, signed by Millennium. And we're presenting these tonight to the board to the board president and secretary for signature. So the next step in the acquisition of the water production facilities is to proceed through escrow, and we anticipate that the district commences then operations of the facilities on September 1. That's after the completion of the escrow process, and that falls in line with our bi-monthly billing cycle. And so this is for public information.
So I'd like to mention that it has been a long time that we've been talking to the good folks at Pillar Ridge. And when we first discussed with them the possibility that we might do something to work together, possibly something along the lines of taking the system over, we were pretty much miles apart, and it was looking like it was something that would just be infeasible. Over the course of time, because we kept on meeting, and we built relationships and shared a lot about our mutual interests, we now, I'm looking at the signature, and it's just amazing to see. It's a good thing. We've known for years that this would be a good thing for the community. It makes our water supply situation easier to manage. It takes something that was the Pillar Ridge community has hundreds of families, and they are part of our district, and it's always been a little odd how that's been treated so differently in our community with respect to the water. So this gives us an opportunity to welcome them in a more normal way. And I just want to point out to everyone who's watching, Pillar Ridge, the community of manufactured homes behind the airport and near the old candle factory, they're part of our community and have been for a very long time. And we are looking forward to being able to provide them with more security for their water system. And I'm just very excited that we've gotten to do this. It's been a long time in coming. It's taken an awful lot of work, and I'd like to say that I'd like to thank, in particular, Clemens. You've done a good job of shepherding this thing through, and it has been it's been an interesting challenge. Dave Schricker, our attorney, Dave too, has weathered some choppy waters to get us here. Tanya Yurovsky, her work on the water engineering answered so many questions about not only was it feasible, but was able then to help us see how it would be from a water management and water supply point of view, a real benefit to the district. And this is going to give us flexibility to do some things that had otherwise been very complicated and very expensive. And because now we don't have to treat them as this one unusual customer hanging off the side of our system, make it a whole. And I'm looking forward to what Clemens and the crew are going to be able to do with doing things to normalize that into our system.
Can the audience ask a question?
Sure.
Is that going to help or benefit Digway at some point if they build that just south of Pillar Ridge? Because I know that was questionable whether it was in our district or not.
No,
Piece of land.
the acquisition has really nothing to do with the
Okay.
Big Wave project whatsoever.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, congratulations, and seeing George Turk's signature on this. George, I hope you're watching. I'd like to thank you for sticking with us on this. This is a good day, and I'm looking forward to when we actually get the deal all the way through escrow, finding some way to celebrate. Okay. Whole business item 2. Review and possible action concerning the San Mateo County Grand Jury Report investigating the transparency of independent special districts websites.
So we presented the grand jury report on the May 19 meeting, and already essentially got approval from the board to move forward with a response. The response, however, needs to address specific recommendations from the grand jury. So we prepared a further response that now details actually the recommendations. And let's go through those shortly here. So in essence, we're indicating that we agree with the findings of the report. Recommendations 1 through 3 are essentially asking questions about the how the district plans to bring the web page up to CSDA standards, and makes a recommendation that this be done on or before May 15, 2015. As we indicate in our response here, is that we're actually going independently from this report through a revision of the web page, and that should be online very, very soon. For sure, sooner than May 15, 2015. We also have some funds set aside that actually help to maintain and update the district website throughout the year. And the recommendation 5 is specifically geared towards the SDLF CSDA program that is called a Transparency Certificate. And this is indeed a criteria that has been widely accepted by districts. And this district we've repeatedly stated our interest to participate in this voluntary program, and we're hoping that we can achieve this transparency. We do not have a timeline set for application submittal to CSDA, but the district is meeting most of the criteria already today. And for example, it's mainly actually a web page update. So recommendation 1 through 3 is almost taken care of achieving this certificate. And the answer is accordingly that we are striving to receive this transparency certificate. Recommendations 4, 6, and 7 are essentially asking about much more elaborate CSDA programs, and the voluntary programs require a significant amount of resources. We're talking about money, of course, and time from staff and directors as well. That's why those have found actually very limited acceptance of special districts and general managers. And we're currently not planning to submit applications for those programs. So that's in essence the answer, and the grand jury would like to see the board bless the response. So that's what we're asking for, to review and approve the suggested response to the grand jury report, or make any additions as you feel need.
Any comments, anyone? Okay. Well, I guess, can we have a motion to approve the...
I so moved.
Okay.
That we accept the manager's response to the grand jury report.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question.
Got the date wrong. First and second line. It's not the July 19th meeting. Today.
Today?
Second one.
Thank you, Lou. I'll correct that.
Oh, yes. Thank you. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. All right, new business item 1, review and possible action concerning public planning workshop on July 24th, 2014.
So we are inviting members of the public of the communities that we're serving, Montara and Moss Beach, to attend a public planning workshop on July 24th. We're currently going through a public planning process, a full process, and the board had already an opportunity to meet about this. We are planning to meet from 6 to 8 at Cypress Meadows in Moss Beach. And Cypress Meadows is located next to the Seal Cove Inn on Cypress. It's there was a nursery I think it's actually closed by now. I haven't seen it open in recent times. It's the building behind that. It's actually a wonderful little congress center that's located there, for the folks that don't know where this is. So it's 343 Cypress Avenue in Moss Beach. And so we're asking for input for a long-term strategic plan that will guide the district's actions for many years. And this workshop gives the board an opportunity to hear from the public and to help set the long-term direction that will best serve our community. We've noticed the meeting through bill stuffers, through postcards. We mailed postcards in Moss Beach, in Montara. We also mailed some in Moss Beach and supplemented with bill stuffers. We hopefully, I saw the Half Moon Bay Review actually picked up the press release that we sent out and published it. So hopefully this is publicized well enough. I'd still like to ask everyone to talk to their neighbors about it, that everyone gets a chance to attend. And yeah, that's about it.
So we're looking forward to everyone joining us for this meeting, the planning workshop. Again, that's July 24th, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. at Cypress Meadows. Okay. New business item 2. Review and possible action concerning a main extension agreement for installation of a new domestic and private fire protection service at 885 San Ramon Avenue in Moss Beach.
So this is essentially the approval of a mainline extension agreement. However, this mainline extension agreement is not standard. This is a situation where the board in 2012 agreed to essentially extend the main further than the applicant would need to extend to complete a loop. And I want to thank Elizabeth Hawkins, who's here for essentially staying with us through this process. This has been an extremely complicated and long drawn-out process. At the time, when we started this whole process, the district was issuing connections, however, then wasn't able to further issue connections for a period until that public works plan was amended. So that essentially resulted in the district having to withdraw the application or essentially return the funds that Ms. Hawkins gave the district. So it's been a very, very challenging process to get this all worked out, but we have now essentially a formula that shows the applicant's share for the project at contributing 34% of the mainline extension on that block of San Ramon, and the district's share 66%. No one else can benefit from this main. There are mains is essentially fronting all neighboring properties. So this is a very unique situation that requires this process. We have we essentially went out to bid for this project. We received 3 bids, and Drini Brothers submitted the lowest bid with $41,250. Ms. Hawkins already has paid the share. There are some funds that are still outstanding, but we will collect those tomorrow. And so what we're asking for approval of this agreement tonight. First, board approval of the cost-sharing agreement with the applicant, which is essentially a main extension agreement. And I believe we have also, I think we got a resolution today, did we? Is this by?
We don't really need one. This
No resolution?
has been approved in concept, and the authorization that will provide for your signature on the agreement.
Okay, so we ask now then for the authorization to the general manager to execute a 34% applicant, 66% district cost-sharing main extension agreement for 885 San Ramon Avenue in form approved by legal counsel.
Just for information, the agreement, it follows a form that you've approved in the past, and the only distinction here is that the allocation of the costs are somewhat, they're not all being borne by the applicant, but the amount that's in the agreement pertains to the applicant's contribution.
And what I think is also important to note that this is actually time critical. The road is supposed to be paved by the county in August, and we have the contractor standing by to start work on Monday if the board approves this agreement tonight.
Do we have any questions? We do have comment slip from Carlisle and Young. If you care to step to the microphone.
Yes. That's just for the camera though, right?
That's
Carlisle Ann Young, 180 San Lucas Avenue in Moss Beach, which is in Seal Cove, and I am a neighbor of Mrs. Hawkins. She was, if I believe, the very first person that put in her application to connect to MWSD water when that first was announced. And you know, as Clemens said, it was delayed because it needed Coastal Commission permit, which was being held up by the Public Works plan being approved, I think, by the county and the Coastal Commission. So I support that her thing get approved since there has already been a considerable delay, and she has been very patient. One question I had that was, I think I'd brought it up quite a while back. There are quite a bunch of other vacant lots on San Ramon down the way. And my question is, or had been at that time, you know, if people start building down that way, would they not be retroactively compensating both Mrs. Hawkins and the district if they start hooking onto that same main? So that was my question, and I'm in favor of you guys splitting the cost as it is.
So again, to the question, the mainline extension is really just covering this block.
Okay.
The other sections of San Ramon currently already have mains, a main in, there's already a main on all the other sections of San Ramon, as well as all the cross streets.
Okay.
So this is really just a blank on our distribution map, essentially, that we're now gapping. So
Okay.
this is just for Mrs. Hawkins' benefit.
Sounds good, thanks.
Do we have any comments or questions from the board? I'd just like to mention that Mrs. Hawkins is one of our community members who has graced us with her presence before at our meetings, and glad to see you again. I'm looking forward to seeing you being able to get this all the way through. And with that, can we have a motion?
Just before you go, may I
Sure.
make just one comment? I want to compliment Clemens on this effort. I know Ms. Hawkins, you and I were on the phone a couple times, I'm sure, with the rest of the group, but I think the efforts that has been done by the front office here was not a minimal amount of work. So I want to compliment it, and I'm glad we're able to have a vote like this tonight. So I think we should give the compliments, because you guys have been working, it sounds like for a decade, but I mean, you're finally to it. So, but I just want to compliment the office for really bending over backwards to make this work. So.
And then I move to authorize the general manager to execute a 34% application, the 66% district cost-sharing main extension agreement for 885 San Ramon Avenue in a form approved by legal counsel.
I'll second it.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. So, a lot of good things happening tonight. Item number 4, I will mention that Catherine was trying to get dialed in. She's got some phone issues. She's in a location where the signal's not very good and there's no landline. So she may get through and we may get her dialed in.
Okay.
If you see me texting, that's what I'm doing. I'm not tweeting.
Well, I don't know, I was looking at something.
Yeah. See, I did offer to vote for proxy if she wanted to give that. We don't have proxy voting. Review and possible action concerning cost-sharing agreement for the adjustment, reconstruction, and modification of MWSD facilities, Seal Cove, Moss Beach area. We do have a speaker slip. Carlisle and Young, you care to come to the microphone?
Go before Clemens this time.
We actually have an item before that.
Did I jump? I
I
jumped.
think you
jumped.
did.
You jumped. Yeah, you skipped
Thank
one
you,
item.
Thank you. It's I made a glitch in my note taking.
Jack in the box here.
Okay. I'm just so happy. Everything's so good. Let's back up and try this again. Review and possible action concerning change order 1 and 2 for the pump station control panel upgrades phase 1.
Yes, so we're going to ask the board essentially to approve change orders, 2 change orders tonight. Change order 1 for the control panel upgrades phase 1. And phase 1 essentially extends the amount of work significantly. We have a very favorable bid, received a very favorable bid. And order 2 is geared to upgrade from to stainless steel cabinets, from fiberglass to stainless steel cabinets. And I'm glad Pippin is here with, he's with Newt Engineering, and he can tell us a little more in detail what these change orders are about. But the recommendation at the end will be to authorize change order 1 and change order 2 to extend the contract days an additional 37 days for the extra work required. That changes the bid to a total amount of from $83,000 to a total amount of $135,000. We anticipated spending around $225,000 for this, or we have $245,000 budget for this work, actually.
Thank you, Clemens, and board. I'm pleased to be able to bring these change orders tonight in favor of the cost benefits to the district rather than in some unknown consequence change order like we have in some cases. This has been a good opportunity to try to advance our project where we've been setting aside each year some funds to chip away on the pump stations and improve the reliability. And as Clemens stated, we had a favorable bid, and the contractor is willing to hold bid prices and extend the work to additional pump stations, which is a real bonus. So we've had a number of years of concerns and complaints from SAM staff regarding the rust and corrosion they've been managing and fighting back, if you will, over at the 7th Street pump station, which is right on the coast, one of the small ones opposite the downtown Montara. And so we have, it's a very similar station in size and electrical requirements to the Seal Cove pump station, which is on the bid. And so we're going to bring, and the contractors agreed to build 2 panels. It's a good cost advantage for him to build 2 at the same time. And then while we're doing that, we're going to upgrade the panel material quality to 316 stainless, which is a lot more durable in the long term. Yeah, with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, Pippin, are these district-wide pump stations, or just one on 7th and one in Seal Cove, or more than one?
It's a good question. The project, the rehabilitation and upgrade project, overall project was something we felt needed to be handle as quickly as the district could, but we couldn't, during budgeting, couldn't justify doing it all in 1 year with the other needs. So there's quite a number of stations in the district, and so we're actually we divided up the stations over 3 years, and we budget over 3 years. So we're going to be making improvements in about half of the stations by the complete of this project, and depending on what we find and how the budget goes for the rest of the project, we could look at other additional items if they're appropriate. But by the end of next year, we hope to have completed going through all the stations to improve electrical reliability. We're improving the redundancy, so if one part of a piece of equipment goes out, the station still can keep functioning, or has a backup communication system to call the district or SAM staff to call for help. We need additional pumping out here or something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. That we originally budgeted $245,000 for this work, and that right now the contract amount is for $135,000, so that's $90,000 less than the budget. Why do we even have to vote on this? Don't you have the authority to do that and just inform us of it?
No, it's over 10%, change order over 10%, or greater than $15,000. I'd ask board approval for this.
Okay.
So as in essence, the stainless steel change order number 2, I could authorize, but since we're going for the $44,000 change order, the larger change order, and ask for approval, we took advantage and are asking essentially for approval of both.
Okay.
If you could dial this into the conference line, Catherine's on it.
In the conference room?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to find the number.
Okay, while Clemens is doing that, do we have any further comments or questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we authorize change order 1 and change order 2 and extend the contract days for an additional 37 days for the X work required.
Get that number down.
I second the motion.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, now, item 4, review and possible action concerning cost-sharing agreement for the adjustment, reconstruction, and modification of MWSD facilities, Steel Cove, Moss Beach area. And with Clemens.
I'm going to ask Pippin to present this item right now.
Okay, sounds great. Okay. Pippin, if you would.
Thank you. Okay. Pippin Cavagnaro from Newt Engineering. In place of Clemens, as he has to step out for a moment. Just a quick bit of history on this, and it goes along in a similar time frame to some of the discussion we heard earlier today about improvements out in Seal Cove. The county has been working for approximately 2 years, I think now, to try to do what at the face value would seem to be something simple: rebuild a street, improve a street. But with the county and the Coastal Commission state guidelines to further in every way possible the environment and the health of the environment in the coastal zone, there are a significant number of very stringent requirements now for the way the drainage systems, the gutters and everything are being rebuilt in a way to try to minimize erosion and improve the environment. And so they started out to repave a street, and they found that it's actually a fairly detailed challenge to manage in a limited right-of-way all the drainage requirements, the rehabilitation and landscaping requirements, and also deal with our pump stations and our water and sewer facilities out there. And this became a bit complicated, and this is, I think I commented.
Conference line?
I had commented in discussions with the county and Clemens that Normally, a cost sharing...
Thank you for calling Totally Free Conference Calls. If you would like to...
Normally, a cost-sharing agreement's fairly straightforward, and you're just raising manhole structures or doing just kind of routine adjustments to adjust for slight changes in grade. What makes this unique out there is we have a pump station sited right in the middle of the right-of-way, and that has a very large concrete deck. And it's not easy to adjust. And there's a significant cost risk to the district. If we had to adjust it significantly, we'd have to tear the whole deck off and rebuild it. And so I work back and forth with the county, and they believe they can they can build the road holding our pump station elevation and just kind of bevel the edges of the concrete in order to make it work. So they have a base, I think, estimate of around $22,000, which they feel is on the high side, but that'll give room to pay for adjustments of fixtures and work on these elements around the pump station. I think I had suggested, because of the risk, that we consider that if we had to redo the pump station, it could be an additional cost, and it could be up to $50,000 for the total project. I have a pretty high level of confidence that we won't need to spend that additional money, and we will likely get it done under the county's cost-sharing agreement request, which is, I think, $22,000. So if you have any specific questions of the details of that, I can try to answer those more directly.
Okay, let me mention that Director Slater-Carter, I believe, has joined the meeting at about 8:20. Catherine?
Hello, yes.
Okay, very good. All right, we have a speaker slip. Carlisle and Young.
Once again, Carlisle and Young, 180 San Lucas in Moss Beach, Seal Cove neighborhood. I'm just here to mention that because the Seal Cove residents have waited so long for the county to pave San Ramon and other paper streets in the neighborhood, it would really be a shame to have to postpone it again. And I believe that San Mateo County is prepared to pave it very shortly in our neighborhood by the end of this fall. So I actually support this and hope that you guys can get it done so the county can move forward. The bioswales that they're putting in for the drainage is, I think, what Clemens said was involved in the issues. So at least they're not putting in curbs and gutters. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any board comments or questions?
So just a question, are we voting for the 22 plus 50 or just for the 22?
This would be for the contingency of up to 50,000.
Up to 50 or up to 72? I just want...
But the...
Up to 50.
Up to 50. Up to
Yeah.
50. Okay, that's my only clarification on that. That's all. Yeah, thanks.
This action will be taken by resolution, the title of which is Resolution Montara Water Sanitary District authorizing general manager to sign and execute a cost-sharing agreement in the amount of $22,000 for the adjustment, reconstruction, and modification of district-owned sewer and water facilities in the Seal Cove, Moss Beach area, and authorizing a total budget of $50,000 should additional work be required.
Okay, I'd like to make that motion that the attorney just read. Please.
Do we have
I just have a
sure.
quick question.
Sure.
Pippin, on this, that it'll be $22,000 based on field conditions that they'll find out that they can either do it or not do it, but they won't know that until they're actually grading and so forth, right?
Well, there's a large number of district facilities, many manholes and water facilities that are encompassed in the whole greater area that they're paving.
Okay.
And so there'll be a number of items that are guaranteed to get done. We have sewer manholes and water castings that need to be adjusted. And those, the contractor is pretty consistent price, they have bid prices for.
Right.
And this agreement, we're agreeing to those prices as presented.
Right.
Where the unknown part comes is if we have a conflict with our power cord to the pump station, the underground conduit,
Right.
and if we have a conflict with the grade or the elevation of that pump station deck that can't be met under that $22,000 cap for adjustment, then we'd have to actually take the deck off and readjust put a new lid, and it would be a significantly larger construction project.
Right. But we won't know that until they.
We wouldn't know
actually
that part until we get it paved and so forth. And I have a high level of confidence we won't need to do that, but I felt it was a big enough risk that we thought it would be prudent to ask for your approval so you wouldn't be surprised later if there was something unknown that came up.
Sure.
Okay, just need a second. Thank you. All right, with Catherine here by teleconference, all of our votes from here out will need to be roll call votes. And since this is a resolution, we're going to do a roll call vote anyway. Any further discussion? All right, if we could have the roll call, please.
Director Slater Carter,
Press 1 for aye. Catherine, are you still with us? Oh, she's calling back. Okay. Yeah, she said that her connection's not very good, so let's proceed with the roll call.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Huber.
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to record that as a 4-0 vote. Since Catherine, have you returned? I heard noises. All right, we'll move on to item 5. Thank you, Pippin.
Thank you, Tim.
Review and possible action concerning State Revolving Fund Project 024 revised funding agreement.
So this is another item where I'm very pleased to present tonight to this board. In 2012, this district authorized staff to execute a state revolving fund agreement for a $500,000 planning loan, and that is with our regulator, with the California Department of Public Health. And that loan was to essentially fund planning efforts for the Airport Wells Corrosion Control Treatment project. And that was essentially a project that was geared to the establishing a treatment plant for a centralized treatment plant for the district airport wells. We then subsequently finalized a lease agreement with and for the groundwater extraction at the airport wells with the San Mateo County. It took a long time to negotiate that agreement, and now that we actually have the final terms and the actual cost of water extraction, we subsequently had to look at the feasibility of this, of the implementation of the plant. And in essence, we come to the conclusion that it would not be economic to build the airport wells treatment plant, and have then talked to the state and asked them to revise the funding agreement to instead explore or increase the district's sources otherwise. And the state was very supportive. This was a very easy process to work with the state on this. They were very happy to see us go down this path. They are now allowing us to use the $500,000 loan to either restore capacity in existing wells, rehabilitate inactive wells, or explore for new sources. So we also asked for an extension of the funding agreement, 36 months, so that will be a completion date of July 2015. So we have a signed agreement in front of us, and would like the board to adopt the resolution authorizing the board president to execute a revised funding agreement to fund planning efforts for groundwater exploration project.
This action will be taken by resolution, entitled which is Resolution Montara Water Sanitary District authorizing board president to execute Amendment A-1 to funding agreement number SRF 12PX102 for funding under the Safe Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Let me just read one sentence from the Acting Chief Division of Drinking Water and Environmental Management. The state commends Montara Water and Sanitary District for taking steps addressed by this project toward the provision of a safe, reliable supply of drinking water for its consumers. And that is what this is about. So,
Yes.
Catherine is having trouble. I mean, she dialed back in, but it was dead silent on her end. But Catherine, if you can hear me? If you're not here, we'll do this by voice vote. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a resolution. Try to get away with it. Thank you, Dave. If we could have the roll call, please.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Aye.
Director Huber.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries 4-0. Thanks for keeping an eye on me, Dave. New business item 6, review and possible action concerning invitation to North Coast County Water District to participate in discussions with Montara Water and Sanitary District and Coastside County Water District Joint Committee. And let me just mention before we start, North Coast County Water District, that's our neighbors in Pacifica, and Coastside County Water District, all they're missing is the end, are on the southern end, and they serve El Granada, Princeton, and Half Moon Bay. The names are so confusing, people ask, it's our neighbors.
So the Montara Committee, that's Director Harvey and Director Huber, met on June 27 and July 8, and we're essentially evaluating the status of the current discussions with the joint Coastside County Water District, that's the Southern Neighbors Committee. And the committee, in consultation with our district engineer, sees great opportunities to open the discussion further to include North Coast County Water District. The committee would like to approach the North Coast County Water District and inform the Coastside County Water District, so they would like to invite the northern neighbors, Pacifica, and would like to also keep Coastside County Water informed about this invitation. So they want to invite North and to talk to South about this, and essentially invite them to discussion focused on evaluating regional benefits of cooperation. North Coast County Water District has in the past stated interest in joint emergency preparedness, similar to Coastside County Water District's interest. And the past discussions between staff and directors included the request to consider emergency agreements and interties among the coastside agencies. So the recommendation is to authorize the MWSD committee to invite North Coast County Water District and Coastside County Water District to joint discussions with Montara to assess the level of interest for regional emergency preparedness solution, including a potential emergency intertie or other ways of cooperation among the neighboring agencies.
All right, board members. Clemens covered it pretty well.
I think he covered it. I would just add that in our discussion that Tanya seemed to be very much in favor of this also, which to me was an important consideration.
Well, I'm glad to have the opportunity to invite him into conversation. I had the real pleasure recently of having a long conversation with Josh Cosgrove, who sits on the NCCWD board. I think this could be a really good thing to put some mutual interest on the table and see how we might work together. I know that Clemens and before him George had done things to establish working relationships at a staff and crew level, and I like the opportunity for the increased participation.
And it seems like Joshua is enthusiastic about this idea too, so it may bear fruit.
No.
And you talked to CCWD, you talked to Ken, he was okay with that.
He was actually enthusiastic about it also. So
good.
Yeah, just to be clear, I wasn't talking to Josh about this. I hadn't heard about this until late last week, but Josh and I did talk about all manner of things. And it was a real pleasure to get to meet him. He works at the Calera Creek water treatment plant for Pacifica, and so we have a lot of things that we can talk about: recycled water and treatment process and all the nerdy sewer things that when you've been doing this for a while, you find out it's a lot of fun to talk about. the benefits of ultraviolet disinfection and other wonderful nerdy topics. Well, can we have a motion to authorize the manager?
So moved.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay.
And
This is to authorize...
you're authorizing the committee as
the
well
committee.
to pick up the communication.
Thank you. Authorizing the MWSD committee to invite NCCWD and CCWD to joint discussions with MWSD to assess the level of interest for regional emergency preparedness solutions, including potential emergency intertie or other ways of cooperation among the neighboring agencies. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Now one of our favorites, new business 7, review and possible action concerning cancellation of the next regular scheduled meeting on August 7, 2014.
We'd like to cancel the next regular scheduled meeting. And that would then put the, I think that would mean that we have the next meeting on August 21st, if that's...
Sounds right.
Yes.
So if something comes up, you'll let us know and we'll meet, but otherwise we'll
Right.
not have a meeting on the 7th. Okay. Report, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side.
Okay, we had a meeting, we had a regular meeting on June 23rd, Monday, June 23rd. And we received an update from the SAM Ad Hoc Recycled Water Committee, which will be consisting of Dwight Wilson and who will be
Well,
on
the committee at SAM is Alan Alifano from Half Moon Bay, Rick Lohman from Granada, and myself. And then we're inviting representatives from Montara Water and Sanitary District and from Coast County Water District, the two water agencies in the SAM area, to come in and have discussions about recycled water and interests, things that would matter, opportunities that we might have, those kind of discussions. It's nothing formal. SAM is trying to spin up the recycled water effort again. The economy's coming back. It was just totally infeasible the past few years, but now there's some opportunity. So it's time to talk to the stakeholders. We'll also be talking with at SAM, wearing my SAM hat for a minute. We'll also be talking with potential large water users. Readily comes to mind the golf courses. They have long been the most obvious and most eager to do this. Also some of the nurseries, farmers, others. So, but we're looking forward to it. I think we're at the point where we now have someone from each of the two water agencies ready to come and join us for a discussion.
And then the other thing was that the general manager, Rob Hopkins, gave us an update on the discussion of doing an actual measurement from GSD sewer. And that would involve putting in some an extra meter. And so he's going to be pursuing that and finding out how much that's going to cost and what the technical challenges are for that, to find out what GSD's contribution, because there's some concern about the flow percentages from GSD, Montara, and Half Moon Bay. So the general manager gave us an update on that pursuit.
And right now it's based on calculation.
It's partly based on calculation because Frenchman Creek doesn't have a meter.
Catherine, can you hear us? She can't hear us. She's telling me that it's dead silent from her end.
Oh, I see that. And then the final thing was, the most important thing is we passed the budget. And there was a little bit of a challenge. The general budget is based on flow, and there had been some discussion about changing that, and I requested that we just pass the budget as the JPA demands, as the JPA specifies, and it was passed, and so that was a big accomplishment. The the upshot of that is that at the next meeting, next Monday, or Monday after this, the people from Half Moon Bay asked that an agenda item be placed to discuss the JPA, and so there'll be a JPA discussion at the next meeting, the 28th, I think this is, or the 25th, not sure. Is it's going to be the 28th. So there'll be so that was kind of a condition to discuss the JPA. So it went well. It was collegial, and we got it done.
So she's definitely on the line. That buzzing is me telling her I'm hearing the buzzing on the line. Let me add, we had Naomi Patridge sitting in as an alternate for Half Moon Bay, and it's worth mentioning that at the end of the meeting, she took a moment to comment on the way the meeting went, and she expressed her thanks for the collegiality of how the meeting was run and how the agencies are working together. There's long been this story going around about how things aren't working at SAM, and I think when Naomi is telling us that things are going well, I think it's time to set that old story aside and acknowledge that we've made some effort, and things are going much better. I was very pleased to have her comment on that, and it was a good meeting. And it was really a relief to get that budget passed.
God bless you.
Could you clarify, Jim, when you say Half Moon Bay wants to discuss the JPA, do you think they want to amend it, or?
They want to discuss it. Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I'm just asking.
but yeah, they want to discuss it. So we'll see what they come up with at that meeting, and we'll find out. But I don't want to. I'm going to refrain from guessing at this point.
All right, Mid-Coast Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. Do we have anyone who wants to give us any?
I don't remember it.
Okay.
Well,
Catherine's here, and if she gave us a report, we could hear it, but she can't hear us talking about it. So, and likewise with the CSDA report, we'll catch up on this next time.
if she can't hear, could she at least talk?
I don't think the Brown Act actually contemplates this situation. We are not on mute, right? Nope, now we're on mute. I'm taking it off mute. Catherine, any chance you can hear us this time? No, okay, it's not us, it's the conferencing center.
Okay.
All right, CCWD committee report. Do you guys have anything more?
No, we just pretty much talked about it before.
All right.
So
Attorney's report.
No, I agree.
Director's reports. I would like to mention that I had the pleasure to join many electeds from all over Jackie Spears' district. She brought electeds together for a conference on planning for sea level rise in San Mateo County, and it was for city and agency officials, and it was very well attended.
All right.
Now you can hear us.
You're up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
If you can, because I hear nothing. It's like I'm in a black hole. And I'm just sitting in the car, so it's dead silent. There aren't even any crickets out here.
Okay.
how about lightning bugs?
One moment while we're going to try texting. I'm going to text everything I say to her. No, I'll do the dictation maybe.
Can you hear us now, Catherine? You can't hear us.
Okay. So it was very interesting. Let me give you the upshot. So by 2100, which I know we're all looking forward to enjoying the dawning of the next century, but if not for us, for our descendants, for our children and their children, by 2100, there's very strong evidence to suggest that we're going to see at least a 3-foot rise in the ocean level here in the Bay Area. And when you look at a map of what happens when you add 3 feet to the ocean, everything east of El Camino is underwater. All of it. That would be the airport, it'd be Foster City, Redwood Shores, all the Oracle buildings, it's a good thing they're tall because the lower floors will be underwater.
Would that only be during a mean high tide?
No, that would in fact be the average sea level, and then when you have, mean high tide, right. And then when you have something like a king tide, it could be as high as 10 feet or more, and if you add a storm to that, we'll be overtopping a lot of structures. And a lot of people who live up on the hillsides, like I live at 175 feet above sea level. What does it matter to me? I'll tell you what it matters to me and to everyone else, and Pippin is smiling really big because he knows this. Pippin, when you go to a sewer plant, how high are you above sea level? And I mean pick any sewer plant you can think of.
Most of them were just inches to feet above sea level. I mean, every single plant we work with in the Bay Area is going to be facing issues in the next, if this slowly comes to pass, it'll
Right.
be facing issues in the next 50 years. Not just the treatment plant, but the collection systems, which aren't designed to be underwater, will be inundated, and water pumping facilities will be affected. It's going to be a major change in the way we look at our infrastructure in California.
Yeah.
This part of California.
So it was. This is one of those things, and Jackie mentioned this. It's people aren't used to government getting out ahead of these problems, and in some way, we're not out ahead of the problem. But we have a few years to deal with this and think about the best ways to deal with it. It's going to be expensive. Less so for Montara and Moss Beach. We have the blessing of being at enough elevation where 3 feet shouldn't matter across almost the entirety of the district. But a lot of our neighbors are going to be very heavily impacted. Foster City's got a real challenge.
Foster City won't exist.
Well, I imagine Foster City is going to be talking to a bunch of Dutch engineers. That's my guess.
Actually, Foster City already has a levee that has been built around the whole city, so they will be heightening making the levee higher. And Alameda is talking about that too. Alameda is talking about, the parts of Oakland are talking about, they're already talking about building levees. So you can drive your Chevy to the levee.
Well, major parts of the Delta are below sea level.
Well, yeah. So anyway, people will be doing things. The airport can have a levee too, built. This is going to be expensive, and it's going to be kind of difficult. What's that?
They were looking at technology to actually have floating runways on barges.
Yeah, concrete.
They actually do that at Hong Kong, someplace, I think.
Japan has one of those.
Yeah, Japan, maybe. I remember reading that, I forget.
Sid?
Also, I've been following, there's going to be an authority that's going to tax every single property owner in the whole region in order to accomplish this levy thing that's going to go around. But I believe that some people are saying it's going to start down in near the Alviso area. Is it 237 that goes from Milpitas to Mountain View, which would of course benefit all of those big corporations that have built along there since the last big Alviso flood. So even though we live on the coast, we'll be paying for the bay to fix up their infrastructure.
Well, we'll also be paying for the peripheral canal. The route gets that through.
Lucky property owners.
I'm just kidding.
We're getting off topic here.
Well, I think a few things have to happen yet before that becomes reality. So I'm really glad not only for Congresswoman Spear for calling everybody together and putting it. She did it in connection with Supervisor Dave Pine and with State Senator Jerry Hill. I want to get that right. And it was very, very well attended. So our colleagues from cities and districts all over, and that's turned out Josh Kostberg was there too, but he and I hadn't actually met, so we didn't talk there. But it was a very good opportunity to talk to other people and find out everybody else is thinking about these kind of things, and it's good to get a start on it.
Yeah.
Any other director's reports? General manager's report.
Nothing.
Okay, with that, we're going to recess and reconvene after the room is cleared in closed session. Public Employee Evaluation Government Code 54957. Thank you, everyone.